definitely watched Toy Story 5 and absolutely loved it, just like we did. But did you realize all the different details and things that only adults noticed when watching the 5th movie of the best animated franchise in history? The biggest example of what we're talking about happens in the very first scene where Woody actually shows up. A lot of people didn't catch it, but the moment the sheriff is rescuing Dr. Nutcase from a kite stuck in a tree represents way more than just a simple crying toy. What very few people noticed is that the toy himself is probably the one who planned the whole thing. He might have even taped himself to the kite, which makes total sense, since Dr. Nutcase himself says they were replaced by technology. And let's be real, a kite isn't exactly a toy used by kids who are glued to their smartphones. And the 3rd Toy Story movie already showed us that toys can jump from kites, since Woody has done it himself. Besides, if you look closely, you'll also notice that the lost toy couldn't care less about the squirrel. It looks more like he actually wanted that to happen. And since he's a peanut, even a plastic one, the squirrel was going to devour him, or at least destroy him. Thanks to Bunny and Ducky, that didn't happen. So, behind what seemed like a rescue scene for a toy that accidentally got stuck in a tree, Woody and his team actually saved Dr. Nutcase from an attempt to unalive himself. Poor toy. He really must have been super desperate. And the adults watching the movie picked up on that right away. Another detail that the kids watching the movie probably didn't catch happens in one of the scenes involving the group of new characters, the Lightyear Army. At a certain point, when they're on the path they believe will lead them to Star Command, several forest animals surround them in a scene that looks a lot like a Disney princess fairy tale. Right after that, a group of campers from the same family passes by, and one of the Buzz figures gets stuck on a root and ends up being taken by the little boy. The army then moves out to the campsite, and we see them grabbing a bunch of things because they were on a mission to rescue their kidnapped teammate. At least, that's what they thought. The crazy detail is that they start grabbing all sorts of utensils to arm themselves, like a super sharp corkscrew, heavy frying pans, and even lighter fluid. Now, can you imagine what would have happened if they hadn't seen that their buddy Buzz was totally fine and actually went through with their rescue plan? If that had happened, that whole family, including the parents and kids, would probably be in the cemetery today. Seriously, that would be pretty bizarre. But the weirdest part of all this is that we all know every toy has an internal mechanism where, the second a human shows up, they go completely motionless. Even the Buzz action figures themselves realize this when they're at the port and a worker approaches them with a flashlight, and they all automatically pretend to be inanimate objects. But the interesting detail that everyday working adults felt represented by in that moment is when the worker just looks at all those toys on the ground and says, "That's not my job." Adults definitely caught that reference right on the spot. Another really cool detail that we can say adults, especially older ones, understood perfectly happens when the old lady who found Jessie on the sidewalk leaves the cowgirl in Blaze's family's mailbox. And we see her say, "There, I dropped off the doll." And her husband in the driver's seat of the Beetle, who was also elderly and a bit hard of hearing, asks his wife if she's going to drop him off. Of course, this is a joke Pixar threw into Toy Story 5 as a nod to all the grandpas and grandmas who are a little hard of hearing because of their age, just like that couple. Don't believe me? Just ask your grandparents, or your parents. Way before that, when Jessie and Lily Pad are having an argument on Bonnie's bed, Jessie claims that the girl was her 3rd kid. Then we can see Bullseye showing his hooves, and he accidentally spells the name Danny instead of Andy. This is definitely something a lot of adults can picture themselves doing. After all, who hasn't accidentally mixed up someone's name, or even forgotten the name of someone you actually thought was pretty cool? Yep, as we get older and more adult, it starts happening more and more often, unfortunately. If you made it this far, do the following. Click the subscribe button. I think we deserve it. But besides little jokes and references to problems that mostly pop up in adult life, we can also say that the Toy Story animators hit a few references in the movie that would be way easier to spot for someone older who watched the 2nd or 3rd film of the franchise, released over 10 years ago. For example, after the toys manage to activate the Buzz Army's flight mode, they grab all the toys and hang out at the entrance of a vehicle tunnel. And if you look at the other side of the road, in the exit tunnel on the left, you'll see none other than the exact same garbage truck that Lotso ended up strapped to after winding up in a dump at the end of Toy Story 3, driving right by. Unfortunately, it passes by so fast that you can't tell if the strawberry-scented teddy bear is still in the same spot, eating bugs and flies every day. Another really interesting detail that practically no one noticed in the movie involving Lilypad was a reference to one of the most iconic places in the entire franchise. When Jessie, Buzz, and Woody finally manage to catch up to the donation car, and they're coming up with a plan to save Bonnie, we can see it passing on a road. And if you pause at the exact right moment, you can see none other than the Pizza Planet restaurant itself in the background. If you're a bit older, or if you've just watched all the Toy Story movies, you'll remember that this is the exact same place where Buzz and Woody were in the first movie over 30 years ago, trying to get back to Andy, only to end up getting taken to the house of the evil little kid, Sid. Now let's talk about an indirect reference to another recently released Pixar movie that happened in the new Toy Story feature film, which very few people realized. At a certain point, we see Buzz use the lizard Sammy to tap on Lilypad's screen because none of the toys could use the tablet's touchscreen, since they're either made of plastic, like the Space Ranger, or cloth, like Woody. The interesting part is that this is practically a recreation of one of the funniest scenes from the movie Hoppers, where we see Tom the Lizard simply using his cold little paws to tap on the cell phone screen and fill the text message with lizard emojis. So, did you catch that inside joke from the Pixar animators? Well, we sure did! Also, it's worth pointing out that another thing involving Bonnie's lizard that adults noticed is the fact that this is Sammy 2, since it's pretty clear that Sammy 1 died. What we can't know for sure is whether Bonnie knows about this, or if her parents simply swapped one lizard for another so she wouldn't be sad. And only the toys saw it happen. When Woody comes back to answer what he believed was a cry for help from Jessie, the sheriff looks quite different. Besides being bald and having a chubby belly, we can see he's sporting a new accessory: his poncho, in true Wild West Django style. The funny thing is, when the toys ask him what that is, Woody explains it and says all that matters is that Bo Peep likes the poncho. The problem is, when everyone looks at the porcelain doll, she just shakes her head no, implying that he thinks she likes it, but she doesn't like it one bit. We can definitely say that a lot of wives watching this scene felt highly represented by what Bo Peep did. After all, it's never a good idea to let husbands know that their fashion taste isn't really all that great. Speaking of couples, we can't help but notice the franchise is getting more and more full of them. Besides Woody and Bo Peep, now more confirmed than ever, we have Buzz and Jessie. But we can't forget about another couple, who is probably the funniest of them all, the Potato Heads. And they're the ones who starred in a pretty hilarious scene in Toy Story 2 that only the adults picked up on easily. When Buster, Andy's dog, comes into the room and starts looking for Woody, he searches through several spots and ends up knocking over the toy house in the process. When that happens, we can see that Mr. Potato Head and Mrs. Potato Head were just hiding inside the house making out, and when Buster came into the room, they automatically activated their toy freeze mode, stopping right at the exact moment they were giving each other a little peck. Naughty, right? At least Jessie and Buzz kissed in front of everyone. And if you made it this far into the video, we saved a bonus moment for you. And it also involves Mr. Potato Head, who is one of my favorite characters in the entire Toy Story franchise. Before Buzz arrived in Andy's room, it's fair to say that Slinky and Woody were each other's best friends. And whenever the sheriff needed some backup, the Spring Dog was one of the first to lend him a helping hand. Because of this exactly, in a specific scene while Slinky is defending Woody, we see in the background that Mr. Potato Head takes off his own mouth and keeps tapping it against his own butt, showing it to another toy while pointing at the dog at the same time. In that moment, Mr. Potato Head is simply making a joke and implying that Slinky is Woody's kiss ass. Had you ever noticed that joke in the first movie? If you want more videos like this, comment down below, add more. We're leaving 2 really cool videos for you to stay with us here on the channel. Click and have fun. Thanks.